Kathy's made a motion to open the meeting. Do I have a
Second.
second? And first thing I know on our agenda is election of officers. So
I would like to nominate Bruce Galush as the chair of the committee.
any other nominations? If not, any discussion? All in favor?
I abstain.
Abstaining. Okay,
I'd like to nominate Jillian Reel as vice chair.
I'll second that. Any other nominations?
Any comments? I can say any comments? Well, Julian have been acting as vice chair since she joined the committee. So that's great.
Call the question.
Call the question. And everybody in favor for Julian as assistant?
I vote against.
No. Nomination for secretary.
Now we need volunteers. Because I don't want to.
nominate Anthony Wilkes.
Oh, I thought we were friends, Bruce. I tell you what, I will do it. Unless someone else would like to.
Anybody else interested in it? Are you interested in it, Kathy?
I'm taking.
You've done a great job too.
It's not my favorite.
Okay, let me catch up real quick here.
I'll take them for tonight. How's that?
Oh, that would be good.
Let's take it for tonight, but.
Yes.
Forward.
Thank you, Kathy.
So can I have, is anybody gonna second the nomination for Anthony? Second, and all in favor?
I abstain.
Actually, I didn't see Nicholas's votes because Nicholas is a voting member.
Oh, Nicholas, yeah, you're a voting member tonight. Sorry. Do you? No, he can vote.
Yes.
He's an alternate. He got appointed by the select board at the last meeting. We don't have the full 6 members here, so he is eligible to vote. Do what?
He could be present here, could vote, but why he's not here?
Do the rules say you have to be present here to vote?
Yes.
I know
Well,
that's
she-
true,
well,
but
she
that's
say
how.
such.
Mary.
I don't know that here.
Mary, can you give us clarification on that, please?
Well, as far as I know, you do have to be present to vote, but you're an advisory board only. I don't
Listen,
see any problem with it.
I know other committees that we let Nicholas do remote and we always allow him to be a voting
I just
member.
wanna say that the past November, December, I was remote from home. And Mary said that I couldn't vote because I was remote. I got myself here and then I was able to vote. But you couldn't.
So the only thing is that Nicholas does have a handicap. He doesn't drive. There are exceptions that can be made for people that are,
That is as requested to the chair before the meeting,
I tell you what,
according to the policy.
Sarah, would you feel more comfortable if we took a vote on whether or not the committee feels comfortable with Nick voting? I would like to move that we allow Nick to vote tonight.
Second, sir. All in favor? Okay, Nicholas, you're a voting member tonight.
So, Nicholas, I've been nominated for secretary. What say you? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you, sir.
Nicholas, yes, on the other nominations also?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And just for the record, Nick, I just want policy to be followed, that's all.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is public comment. Do I get anything? Anybody on Zoom got any comment?
There is a question here. Let me click on it. Can the budget include resources for someone in the town office to assist the short-term rental committee with administrative support? The group has been providing the meeting link to a selective group of people. Katie, I think that's something that you can address with the, whoops, sorry, I must have hit a button here. That's something I think that you can address with the with the interim town manager. The budget has already been passed for this fiscal year, so once a budget is passed, there's no room for making any sort of further accommodations.
I would say, but we can try to flag it, and if you could remind us when we start the next budgeting cycle, we could certainly raise it then.
Well, and if I'm reading the question correctly, it's more of a communication issue than it is a budgetary issue. They just want to make sure that the short-term rental committee, that the link to that is widely disseminated. If I'm reading the question correctly.
Okay, and the next thing on the agenda, vote on the meeting minutes from June 23rd, 2026.
I move approval of the minutes.
Seconds, any discussion? All in favor?
Nick, how do you vote?
Abstain.
He abstains.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you probably weren't at that meeting, huh? Okay.
No, I abstained too, because I was not at that
All
meeting.
right. Thanks.
Well,
Next one's vote on the meeting minutes from July 13th, 2026. I have a motion.
I was not at that meeting, so I'll be abstaining.
I would make a motion to accept them.
Have a second? Seconds, any discussion? Sarah?
So I got some amicable changes. Right, you did a great job with this move, by the way. So you mentioned the Sarah said that the school has rule that allows management to move 5% of the budget. It was not a budget line item, it was the budget departments. Yeah, there are 11 articles, so we can move money within the articles.
Yeah, okay.
And that we translate here to the departments. Right, into another department or article, what you want to call it. But I was not sure if 5% would be high enough to address the town. I was not sure if high would be too high or too low. I had either way.
Just to be correct.
Yeah, I'm not sure if 5 would be appropriate. You can put it like that. Okay. And that's it.
Make a motion to approve the minutes with the changes made.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? 4-4 to abstain?
Nick, are you abstaining from this as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay. 2 abstentions.
Okay, next thing on the agenda, discussion about committee use of emails.
So I had the opportunity to attend the FOIA training. And I thought it would be helpful for a level set if we had a discussion about how we can use email within the guidelines kind of explained in that meeting to share information and prepare for meetings while still making sure we're complying with FOIA. And I had a couple recommendations in an effort to be transparent. One is that the town staff do use email to disseminate information between meetings. And so one of the ways that I thought we could make sure we're being transparent from a FOIA perspective is if emails come in with substantive information that is going to come up at the meeting, that we attach them to the meeting minutes. So for instance, we got an opinion from the town's attorney that we'll probably talk about at tonight's meeting. One way that we can make sure that we're pulling all that information forward and making it easy to access is to attach things to the meeting minutes. As a
agenda.
Well, depending on when the things come in, if it's available before posting the agenda, certainly we would attach things to the agenda. Like this meeting, we had attached the language that we're going to discuss. But often things come in after the agenda's been posted. And so obviously if you come in person, we have extra copies. But in order for someone who watches the recording to also see that, I thought the most prudent way to ensure that was to attach it to the meeting minutes. My takeaways from the FOIA training, though I am certainly not an expert, were that it's okay for us to use email to organize and plan meetings and to disseminate information. So for instance, if we have requested Penny send us something, it's fine for her to share out information. Where we get into murky water is when we then start making recommendations about how to act with that information. And so, I think it's okay for us to send out questions or information with the group, but it's when we start discussing actions that we would be crossing the line. So my advice was we make sure we're attaching everything we can to our minutes or agendas to kind of flag when we're sharing just information for the group or flag when we're sharing questions for the group so that all of that can be addressed in the public setting. That was my main takeaway.
Sarah?
Yeah, I agree with Julie on that. Now, the big thing is that in emails, only information is what we can put out. And they recommend not to reply. So if you're gonna ask for information, or additional information, get another email and start a new thread. So that said, the meeting folder where the agenda was posted, in that same folder, you can add all kind of information we need for the meeting. And that, for coming from the planning board, that's standard in the planning board. Any information that we're gonna use at the meeting get dropped there. So we don't have to be emailing or anything like that, one. And then second, it's available to the public before the meeting. That's why previous meetings of the budget committee, when somebody walked in with calculations and have the group has it, but I didn't, I will tell you that that was illegal, coming from that line. But as it turns out, from this meeting, that we went before a meeting, agendas are just recommended, they're not needed. We can walk to the meeting and establish that agenda, and that was gonna be very unproductive meeting, because we're gonna be deciding what to talk about in the meeting. A good productive meeting have agendas and all this, the information that we're gonna have in that folder, and then that folder is available to the public. So
What-
no hiding.
What folder are you speaking of? I'm not aware.
So you know that same folder that you walked me through to look at the agenda for today?
It's not really a folder, so
It's-
I thought you were talking about a Google Drive, for instance.
Is that location in whatever the system is for,
Just an uploaded document. It's not a folder.
so it's a place where documents are posted.
Okay,
In the planning board, we use that to place all the documents that the board is gonna need to consider the applications. It's no
Okay.
different from a meeting.
like the select board packet.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be all in one file. It can be several files dropped in there.
So there is a way that you can actually hyperlink to all those files on the website. And again, Mary, if you'd like me to provide some training, it's something I didn't learn until I got to Winthrop, but I think it's very easy on users and citizens where they can click on an agenda item and see all the background information that's hosted on the website. Oh, and Mary just gave a thumbs up, so.
Yeah.
Yes,
Here and Sarah, I don't know
Oh,
what her needs it, but I have.
Okay, what do you want me to repeat?
I just wanted somebody to rephrase what her
Okay.
comments were, because I'm not sure I have it right in the minutes.
So I thought it was taking minutes.
No, I agreed to take the minutes for today.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
going
great.
forward.
So Julian
This is what I-
expressed,
This is what I thought I heard you say, I'll just rephrase.
you heard Julian?
What I thought I heard you say was. And all information that anybody at the committee is reviewing at the meeting has to be posted beforehand so that everybody can see it.
It doesn't have to, but it will be nice if it will be posted in the
So that was
website.
your suggestion was that anything that people are gonna look at the meeting
Sure,
should be posted beforehand.
yeah,
Okay, so like this email you just sent that you handed out, that needs to be posted beforehand. It would be better if that was posted beforehand, so everybody would know we were gonna look at that.
that's correct.
Okay. And
However, Julian said exactly what we were told at the meeting.
I'm sorry, I missed that, what?
Julian said what we were told at the FOAA meeting.
Okay,
That he-
Julian.
Jillian,
Sorry,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
I thought there was somebody at the training who said that, okay.
I'm pronouncing that you will say in Spanish.
Okay, go ahead.
So that said, emails are good with the forum of the group only for information, one way. So let's say Jillian send an email with the agenda.
Okay.
Because the agenda doesn't have to be posted, it's just recommended, doesn't have to,
Okay.
right? This town being so transparent for a long time that they decided to do that. And for that same reason, agendas were not posted before, because they were recommended. That said, going forward, yeah, if emails with all the information can be sent one way, what the trainer told us not to do is to reply to those emails and create a thread with a quorum.
So I can send an email to everybody and say something. But
Information.
nobody can reply.
Well,
Only information.
Okay. I
You
can
cannot
send
do
information.
opinions or recommendations or suggestions, none of that through email. Not even with a quorum, without a quorum.
I think Jillian correctly stated the process and that we should not engage in deliberations online. But deliberations by definition are something that we're going to be acting on.
So if I do a spreadsheet and I want everybody to see it at the meeting and I send it out in an email, that's okay.
yes,
And if I bring it with me because I didn't have it done until 2 minutes before I left my house to come to the meeting,
So
that's
that's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
And-
And so
in-
Sarah's, what you're trying to discuss here is just that you think it would be prudent
Yeah.
if we're going to do something like that we post that where before.
So in the same place where the agenda was posted,
Yeah,
that same place is the same thing we
So-
use for the planning board. You can post everything that we're gonna need for this meeting right there,
Okay.
even the day of the meeting. We have done that.
okay. All right, I understand that.
You're
So
welcome.
it's,
Hey, no problem.
I just have a question for clarification. When you say we can, you mean you can ask town staff to, it's not that the planning board has the ability to do that directly.
That's correct. We have one person in charge of that, and that's Hans Rasmussen.
Yeah.
If we want anything in that folder, we send it to him.
Yep.
Here will be, I don't know,
Mary.
we Mary,
Go to Mary.
yeah.
So what we would do though in the future is attach your chart to the minutes,
yeah, okay. Oh,
Just-
I got you. Uh-huh.
just to try to make things easy to follow.
Yeah, got it. Okay. I understand what I put in the minutes, thanks.
Any other discussion on emails? Nicholas, you have anything?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay,
So, FOA rules were considered last time. This is part of this email thing.
yes, we're gonna, that's on the agenda to.
I don't believe it was discussed last time because
No.
because everybody was not present.
So I gotta say something else about that, if I may. So about committee meetings. When let's say over the weekend, you got a call from the select board. And we are needed on a Sunday, and we're needed to have a meeting on Monday afternoon. As long as you go on, paste it in the website. Budget committee having a meeting today, and as soon as you can. In the website, we're good. And that be my fight all along with this whole thing. That the public has the right to know. The statute, as Anthony clarified last 2 minutes ago or so, says only ample time, doesn't define it. But in the training that we have, Julia proposed that, is suggested and recommended 7 days. Consistently, this town, specifically Mary, have been on the planning board on that all the time. When we want a meeting or something, Mary would say, 7 days, 7 days. So from my perspective, if we are required 7 days into it, everybody should be required 7 days.
So.
That's a select board decision.
Yeah, I say that's no decision for us.
That training, MMA, that we pay for, said that for all committees.
Sarah,
and boards,
you just said it should be the same for all committees. We don't have that authority. The select board does.
We may have recommended that.
I'm just saying that, I'm saying if that's gonna be the rule, that's a select board decision. I'm not disagreeing with you other than saying that if that's going to be the rule across all the committees, that's for the select board to decide.
So that is on the board behind you, Anthony, to make all the committees straight across the board consistent with bylaws because there are so many inconsistencies.
Very good. We look forward to that happening.
Any other discussion on emails? No, we'll move on to confirm that members have complied with the FOIA training and requirements. You have 120 days after you get nominated to do that.
So I think we also need to confirm that everybody's been sworn in.
Yep.
I don't know if,
I've been sworn in. Now I'm
Yeah.
here to be sworn at.
Nicholas, have you been sworn in yet?
I have.
Okay, great. So everybody present, I believe, has been sworn in.
and then is everybody aware of the FOIA requirements, or does anybody have questions? The training requirements.
I sent my form in.
So Mary, as far as you know, are we all compliant?
As far as I know, everyone is compliant. Nicholas, did you do the FOA?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right. I didn't recall, but it's fine. I attach it to the application, so okay.
I don't know if I'm still compliant because I did it for the planning board. Does that still make me compliant for the budget committee?
My understanding is that when you get sworn in, you have to do it afterwards. But if you review the FAQs again and fill out the form, you should be all set.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Okay. Seeing on the agenda, discussion and vote on budget committee application by Andrew Dallas.
I think you have to vote on mine too.
Yeah,
Do we?
Yeah, that's what they said.
they said at the board meeting.
Oh, interesting.
So we got, let's start with,
They know.
I'll let Sarah go and then we'll.
I was not at the select board meeting. So I have a few questions about that. Because Mary shared with us the policy of 2021. And here comes the caveat. We got told by John Hart,
John, yeah.
yeah, that was last Monday. What day was that? That last Monday. Was Monday, today's the 27th. Last Monday was the 20th. Is that correct, Mary? That Ron resigned on John Paul resigned on Monday, July 20th.
Yes.
Okay, so according to the policy, it says after a 2-week period, the applications received will be forwarded to the board committee for its review at the next meeting or for a recommendation to the select board. So in my mind, Ron resigned on the 20th, so that same day, John resigned on the 20th. So that same day, the front office posted an opening.
At the lunch.
I don't know if that's the case. It was done that same day. So from the moment the opening is posted, the front office have to wait 2 weeks. All there for 2 weeks idle, waiting for applications to come in. And then once I get the applications, let's say 3-4 applications show up in 2 weeks. Those 4 applications are grabbed and sent to the committee whenever the time is made.
No, I'm just looking at our budget committee.
So there's nothing in the bylaws of our committee.
So what are you getting at, sir?
So there's a policy, 2021, November 16, 2021. Talks about town of Belgrade committee application policy. Vacancies on the town board and committees will be promoted for a minimum of 2 weeks. And that's the point, that we still not ready to review whatever application.
And the Dallas's.
We were not ready either to accept review the application of Mr. Alexander, but it's already done. We don't want to go back on that.
I think you're mistaken about that because
It was 2 weeks.
Penny Morrell resigned some time ago.
So she resigned on, her term was to the 30th of June. So that, the opening of that position was effectively July 1st.
My understanding is she submitted her resignation prior to that.
No, but she was here and a meeting after that resignation because her term went all the way to the 30th. And she only resigned and supposedly was not going to come back because there was no more meetings for the budget committee. But then another meeting was announced.
This is pointless. Can we please get on to some business? Okay, we'll wait on moving on, Andrew, but I'd like to move that we recommend to the select board that they appoint Kathy McAway to a voting position.
That shouldn't be a problem.
I'll second that. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Nicholas, how do you vote on that? You still there, Nick?
You're muted, Nick.
Is he still up on the board?
Yes.
Oh, I don't see him.
I vote yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So my point, Anthony, is that
I don't care. Let's move on and let's discuss what these people are here to discuss.
So the only other thing is, are you moving Nicholas into the alternate one position? Because that hasn't been determined. Or are you just going to wait till Andrew comes on?
No, I think we ought to make that decision tonight. Thank you, Mary, for reminding me of that.
I make a motion that he be moved into alternate one position since he was the first one to come forward and that was what was done last time.
I will second that.
I also would like to be in the minutes that we didn't follow policy on that.
What are the minutes what?
That we didn't follow the committee appointment policy with that.
I didn't write down what the policy was.
Yeah. So that's fine. It doesn't matter to me that we work today.
Okay.
We already far in, we already happy, all excited about being here. There's no point in going back, but we didn't follow policy.
So, Sarah, are you gonna bring that, Mr. Dallas tonight, or do you want to wait the 2 weeks?
Well, I'm just saying what the policy is, to make sure that everybody's aware.
Let's just wait. Let's
get Nicholas and
Okay,
we'll go from there.
all right.
Okay, so any other discussion on Nicholas, the number one position as alternate? If not, all in favor? Number one alternate.
I abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and
Bruce, can I say something?
Yeah.
The fact that I brought out the policy, it doesn't mean that I'm completely correct. Somebody can say, well, Sarah, I don't interpret it like that. I interpret it different. I just wanna point out the way I interpret it, and it seems that there's a queue of 2 weeks waiting for applications before it comes to the committee.
well, I know the select board sent Andrew Dallas to our committee to discuss and ask for approval. So I'm going by what the select board has asked us to do. If anybody else on the committee wants to say nay, or what?
I'd like to start discussing the petition.
Okay, me too. So we will table and have a motion to
So moved.
table.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Next thing is discussion of the petition. What do you guys take off on that?
I
don't have a copy of it, too.
have a copy I can share. My suggestion last meeting, but I'm certainly, it's just a suggestion, was that we work through it section by section. Rather than glom it all together, so we can talk about how each section, the goal of each section, and then how it would actually function, and we can highlight. Questions, concerns, or things that we need to flag, kind of in a systematic manner. Does everybody have a copy of the petition?
Yes.
You got one? You got one?
Thank you.
I guess, I want to ask the people who came to join us first,
Yeah.
thank you for coming. Would you like to speak to each section
No,
before the committee talks?
I have no interest at all speaking about any section
Okay,
at any moment, at any time. It's a legal document, it's been certified. And it's a decision for the select board whether to put it on the ballot or not.
Well, and to be fair, our charge is to make a recommendation to the select. And so it's helpful if you have insight that you think would be helpful in helping us make that recommendation to share it.
I understand where you're coming from, Anthony. But the petition's a legal document. And it's not up for debate. It can't be changed or modified in any way.
Okay,
You
okay.
can, you know,
Yeah, I mean, you're free not to speak, so,
That's
so.
right.
Okay, so I have like two overarching questions, first of all, that I don't understand. So maybe Carol, maybe you can help us understand. I'm just curious as to why an ordinance versus a policy.
Oh, we need the ordinance in because people change, times change, personnel changes. When that happens, policy changes, and we would like to have ordinance be a legal document so that it lives beyond any changes in the personnel.
Understood. And this is going to sound a little government nerdy, but I'm a government nerd. Usually an ordinance cites some sort of statutory authority that the state has given, the legislature has given, for the ordinance to actually be enacted. And I noticed that there was no statutory authority cited in this. And it just makes me question, most of the ordinances that I'm familiar with cite some sort of statutory authority, even if it's a law that speaks to home rule authority. So I'm wondering if you're able to help me understand why that's not in this document.
Our goal was to ask the town to do these things and to have it by ordinance passed by the voters so that it would actually happen.
But you still have to be able, under state law, to be able to do those things. Can we agree on that?
Municipal attorney
Uh-huh.
review it,
Yeah.
approve it, and then we submitted it to the voters.
And you have seen the latest opinion from Mr. Socher? Okay.
The person who wrote the first one, to recuse, and my understanding of the rules are that the entire firm needs to recuse on this issue.
Well, Mr. Socher is an experienced municipal attorney, so.
The attorney that drafted this was my attorney that is now opining to the select board, and I think the rules are pretty clear.
I have given that information to the select board. Mary has it. She handed it out.
Okay.
The truth is the truth.
Okay.
There's conflict.
Okay. So I suppose it could be submitted to Maine Municipal Association, but typically they don't deal with local issues. They deal with sort of umbrella type issues. But nonetheless, I mean, we do have an attorney who has stated that, he sees some legal issues with this. And do you have any thought as to those?
So that vote this down. Our position is we submitted it as a legal document. Now it's before this committee and the select board to decide to put it on the ballot or not.
Can you give me some understanding of how the ordinance would be enforced?
That would be up to the town to figure out.
But what if the ordinance is violated? Who is culpable in that situation?
It's
Okay, and how would that play out?
that would be up to whoever says.
That's up to
raises
the
the
select
issue.
board.
Well, and the reason I'm asking is because no, you can, Kathy, because most ordinances do speak to enforcement in some form or fashion. So for instance, the work that Sarah does on the planning board, most of our land use ordinances speak to some sort of penalty, if you will, if someone violates one of those ordinances or a regulation of some sort. And this does not. And so it makes me wonder how the enforcement would work if
It would be up to the select board
well,
after they either put it out to vote or don't.
but Carol, that's not how please let me finish. Please let me finish. That's not how an ordinance works. Like an ordinance is supposed to outline this process so that it's not arbitrary and capricious on the back end when someone does actually violate the ordinance.
No response to that.
So I'm
Yes.
I'm a little sad, or sad maybe isn't the right word, but I have been asking and encouraging you all to come because I think that there are things that from your petition that we could implement as policies And then it's not left up to chance as voters. And so part of my hope for this discussion was to better understand your goals for each of the sections, because we're currently working on a financial policy. From my perspective, this isn't a gotcha moment. This is an opportunity to really understand the roots of your concerns, so that as we're developing what we want to put forward to the board as a financial policy, that we can be using that to make it better, frankly.
Let's go over each section.
And so if you don't mind humoring us, it's really for me to better understand what your goals were.
Goals or no goals, this is a language that got signed. It
Yeah,
can't be changed. So let's go over each of these and do what the select board asked us to do.
I agree. So can I ask a question about 0.1 under section 1? Can I ask a question about 0.1 under section 1? So it speaks to, let me call it up here. Oh, you don't have a copy? Okay.
One says the percentage increase in property taxes caused.
Yes. Yes. So my question is, when you say the percentage increase in property taxes, how is that going to be measured? In other words, is that meant to be the tax levy?
You know, I don't think this language is complicated.
Well, I don't understand, and I work in this every day, Carol.
Intent is clear, and I think that the select board would
But-
set some policy about how they would implement that.
But Carol, an ordinance has to be clear. So are we talking about the tax levy? Are we talking about a percentage increase in the mill rate? Are we talking about some other measure?
Why people who signed it? They want to know how the budget is going to affect their taxes. That's what they want to know.
Okay, so my
Simple. It says, please give some information to the voters before you ask them to vote on something that you haven't explained to them what it is. They're voting in a vacuum. There's no information about how it's going to affect their taxes. That information should be presented by the board to the voters prior to voting.
Carol, you and I are in agreement. You and I are in agreement on this. I'm asking, like, what's the information that's going to be presented? I think if you were to ask my opinion, I would think the tax levy or any increase in the tax levy would be appropriate. But I want to be clear before we make a recommendation to the select board. Okay, but I need your help. I need your help in understanding this. No, you wrote this. It's not as simple as you think it is.
I feel like the language is the language. We had the opinion from, it's pretty clarity, right? We had the Bernstein, sure. We had the opinion from Bernstein. This is what they said. If you put this on and it's approved, then the select board will have to put it into practice. Either all of the sections or change some of the sections according to this statute, like they say section 2 is perhaps a violation. Any of these parts in here are severable. So under section 7, if the town wants to leave out something that they think won't work, this is just basically asking for transparency in section 1, but it's up to the select board now, if it passes, to say, to answer all these questions.
Okay,
They don't have answers.
Okay, but maybe as a group here, the budget committee, can we agree that the tax levy is the best measure?
I think
The amount of taxes collected. So let's say that this year we're collecting $1 million in taxes, and next year we're collecting $1.2 million in taxes. The increase in the tax levy would be 20%. Yes.
or to say what that is.
That's not how an ordinance works though, Kathy.
Yeah.
The lawyer that said this was okay seemed to believe this was how an ordinance would work. That's all I'm saying.
Sarah?
So
Sorry, Sarah.
I really, I walking in, I just give you a statement of the fact that all I want is to follow state law and, want to help with this. I don't have any cock in the spine. And I think what you guys are trying to do is honorable and dignifying and good for the town. But these are the things. When we build the budget here and put that whole document together, all right, and then create the articles of the budget, well, we are basically, the main thing we do is to describe expenses. And we know that the fire department has these many expenses and so on and so forth. So in order to determine property taxes, we need a number called mill rate. And we need the assessment of the town. So the part of creating the budget only give us the expenses. And I know that last time it was mentioned, no, we also talk about revenues. We speculate about the revenues and say that, for instance, the expense in the fire department is how that's gonna be paid. We agree it's gonna be paid by raising and appropriating, which means taxes. Or a portion, 20% of it is gonna be coming from the reserve, that we already know the reserves. But we don't know till all that is voted. Because there are 22 articles, how would then, maybe will not pass. And that changed the amount of expenses that we have, go from 100% original budget expenses to, let's say, 60%. So that number changed, and we need that number. Is that correct? Expenses under the value of the town to get the mill rate.
So this is my point, is that if folks are expecting to see what the change in the mill rate is going to be, that's, I don't believe a realistic expectation, because there are a lot of other factors that figure into a mill rate, including changes in property valuation and whatever your overlay is going to be. If you're saying people need to know what the amount of taxes raised by the town is going to be, that's your tax levy, I think that's an appropriate measure, and I think it's something that's doable, and I would advocate for including that in our financial policy.
So my view of section 1, it doesn't have any financial impact on the town. It's just asking the town to provide information.
It is, but you got to know what information is expected.
So that kind of financial impact these might have on.
No, I think
See that this.
no, I think we were asked to make a recommendation as to.
It's just.
My concern about this, as a lawyer, and to make more than I wish I did, is that if we don't have these discussions on the front end, and we're not able to clearly articulate what this would mean in actual tangible terms, how we're gonna implement this on a Monday or Tuesday, the community is gonna have a misconception about what they're gonna get. And that's gonna fuel even more distrust. Or people are gonna feel like they're not getting what they're supposed to be, and that's gonna result in a lawsuit, which is gonna be very expensive. And so I feel like the work on the front end is with the goal of having things, if it does get passed by the voters, having clear expectations of what this is gonna look like in implementation, and to have a good process, because clearly mistrust is a huge concern. It's been a big concern if you were at the last couple towns meetings, you heard me say it. And I agree that this is just information that we should be able to put out there, and I think including it in the financial policy makes sense. Everything though does have a cost. Like, I wanna be very, very clear. Every time we ask the town manager to run more calculations or do this or do that, there is a cost, because we're paying staff and that stuff takes time. And so the more we can have a really clear understanding of what our goal is, what each thing is going to, the better off I think we're gonna be overall.
So I just wanna say one thing. Your attorney and my attorney opined that section 1 is legal. My understanding of petitions is if it's legal, the select board puts it out to vote as written. That's my understanding. If a petition, it's determined to be legal, it's a legal document. It doesn't say might or may, it says shall, put it out for a vote. That's my understanding.
But Carol, we're trying to understand so we can, so we'll know how this manifests itself. So for instance, your first sentence on section 1 notes that, folks want to know what the spending proposal's impact is on property taxes and rent. And so like one of the concerns I have is, like, when it comes to rent, what's the expectation there? Simply because the town has no way of knowing how much, if any, or all of a property tax increase is going to get passed on to renters. They're paying taxes indirectly as opposed to directly. And so that's kind of hard for the town to say, here's what the impact on rent is going to be.
Section 1 has been determined to be legal.
I'm asking you to help me understand.
So the town could, so the town could say in this information session, the increase in taxes is blah percent. And we don't know how landlords or rich landlords will raise or lower rent. And that would be providing their,
But that,
that would be provided.
that's not
information.
All right,
that's not compliance. It
Right.
says will provide where via public meeting notice in writing about the spending proposal's impact on property taxes and rent. And so the only thing I think the town can credibly say about rent is that there is a possibility that every annual tax levy could cause someone's rent to increase. Like, but I don't know that that's not useful.
I think this was put in by the attorney because rent had to be included in this language for some reason. My recollection. And I'm gonna have to recuse from any voting on this because I'm on that committee as well as this committee. But I think it was put in there for a statutory reason.
I'm sad.
So, Carol, when I read this, if I'm a voter, I say, just go there to vote. And I read the percentage increase in property taxes, said, this is fantastic, so I'm paying $3,000 now. If they tell me the percentage, I know how I'm gonna pay next time. But we don't wanna be able to go to that level, the stuff that we get to pay the taxes says exactly how much we pay. They say my household is paying $3,000. So when you say a percentage, they say 10% more, it means that next year you're gonna pay $3,300. The town cannot do that when we're voting when it's going to vote the budget, because we're still voting on the expenses. There's no way to calculate that. That's what I'm trying, if the intentions of this petition are very honorable and dignified, but you're asking 30 days before even voting on the budget, on the expenses. We're not gonna have that information. That, when I read this, property taxes, so that means that even before going and vote, not only I have the tax bill from last year was 3,000, the town, the governors of the town, not the town, but the town is all of us. The governors of the town have to tell me exactly how much percent is going that up. We don't know. We can speculate, but we don't know. And then with this, ordinance, the town is gonna be, the governors of the town is gonna be held accountable with it. Why does it pay for that? Who's gonna be enforcing that?
Yeah, and I actually think you can tell the taxpayers how much property taxes are going to be required to support the budget once the budget is proposed. You don't know how that's going to be distributed because property values for individual property owners may change somewhat. I just want to make sure, like, again, I'm supportive of giving more sunshine to this on the front end, but I would like to know, like, the tax levy, the amount of tax is going to be collected. To Sarah's point, we can say it's going to increase by this number of dollars and this percentage. Is that going to be satisfactory to the people who sign this, or are they anticipating something like saying, "Oh, the mill rate's going to go from this to this"? Because that I don't think can accurately be done.
So I don't understand what the rush is to have voters vote before you actually know that information. Because if the town doesn't know that information, that's kind of a scary thing. The town should know what they're asking us to vote on.
Okay, so good point. So are you saying then that you're in no rush to get this on a November ballot?
It's legal document. Go on the November ballot, up or down.
Okay.
I am saying, I don't know why the town rushes us to vote before they have the answer to these questions.
Oh, you're talking about voting on the budget. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about voting on this.
Town doesn't know what the impact is on its citizens.
So
I do not understand the rush. There is
so Carol, there is no rush. The problem, I mean, you have to pass a budget by a certain deadline, obviously.
There's always ordinance that says we would like to carry forward our spending until.
It's bad practice. But let me tell, but let me tell you, you're misstating the problem. The problem is not that the town is rushing. The problem is that we need better leadership that can say to the select board and to the voters, this is what the increase in your tax levy is going to be. So it's not a rush. We need to do a better job at the top.
The purpose of this one, I think that possibly what you just said is why this petition exists. Right.
I'm sure that is, but all I'm saying is for us to make a recommendation to the select board, we need to understand this petition better and what the expectations are.
Julian said.
Carol, may I ask a question just so I understand the train of thought? Because I've been wondering why we do things in the order we do. Is there an alternate timeline or process that you would recommend?
I would recommend that you ask people in this town to vote when the town has all of the information it needs to tell us what we're voting on. Because right now that doesn't happen. So I would never buy a truck unless I knew what was in my budget and if I could afford the truck. So that's not the way town government works in Belgrade.
So may I pose kind of a similar question to Anthony, because I don't know that I understand the timelines well enough. Is there a different order that we could be doing things in, or are we stuck in the order we are because of the other constraints? Like we have to pass the school board budget at a certain time frame, the county budget at a certain time frame.
You have to pass the town budget in a certain time frame as well. And so what I would say is the time frame is not the problem. The process is actually not the problem. We have to be better at the process so that and you can do the calculation of what the tax levy is going to be year over year based upon what you're budgeting, both for expenditures and revenues year over year. You can let taxpayers know 30 days in advance if you have your stuff together, right? Does that make sense, Jillian?
It does, and I think that, I don't know if you had the same takeaway from the budgeting workshop, but I was just floored by the budget packets other municipalities provide with like much more robust information. And so I know
Who provides this kind of information on Julie? I was in the same budget, training
So
that
they-
you were,
like
and I didn't show any of that.
Oh, they had recommended we look at Saco. There were like 2 or 3 towns that they recommended.
They don't have a mill rate when we're gonna go above for expenses.
That is true. No one does.
Yeah, they don't have a mill rate. What they have though is much more robust information about what's being spent, why, and how.
Well, what you are talking about is a narrative. Best way of construct a budget is to be doing on need base. And Freeport does this excellently, especially for the school board. On the fall, they go to the community and they collect all the needs. And that's something that we're missing here, sure, in our process. The department heads come with a verbiage on what to do, but they don't know, nobody's written down what they need and they come in with a pamphlet. Here's what my department in writing. That's missing.
Well, here,
I'm not done.
I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Right.
I thought you took a breath. I thought you were done. Go, please continue.
That's why this petition is, I think we don't have the training and the breadth of experience to do that. For years and years, it have been done like that. Just like for years and years, we never had expressive minutes or need for minutes. Last year, I was elected vice chair and I was not even here. So I came to know that I was vice chair in the meeting in January. So you be aware of that, Julie. So that said, it's important to me that you understand how mill rate is calculated. Do you know how mill rate is calculated? How it is calculated?
Sort of. And that, you know, section one, I'm gonna just be.
No, listen, I'm asking you a question. This is, I look what's necessarily here. We try to understand what the metrics that we're gonna be used to communicate with the community. Because if we're talking property taxes, in my mind, when I said, okay, I got a stuff for property taxes last year was $3,000. I'm waiting for that percentage from the town to tell me how much is going to increase before I go on board for the tax, for the expenses. Right? And so in order to calculate, to those, do that calculations at the narrow end of the stock, comparing it to future property taxes compared to last year's, we need the mill rate. In order to calculate the mill rate, we need this total expenses. That's what we voted at the meeting.
No, Sarah, no, that's a misstatement.
Well, why is it mistake?
You know what your expenses are going to be. You know what your revenue is going to be now.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
You're proposing that, the revenue.
Fair enough.
You're not gonna get it.
No, you do. You do. Trust me on this. You do.
Okay, so you know the expenses going to the meeting, or you're proposing the expenses to the town? We know the expenses when the town approve it and vote on it.
So listen. Carol, to your point, why it feels rushed is I think this past year, like every time the budget committee met, we got a new iteration of the budget. And I'm just saying more competency on the front end. You won't have all of these, and there were lots, Kathy can speak to tons of changes with each passing budget. And so that gives you more clarity as you're approaching your town meeting as to how much taxes you're going to need. And that's why I'm trying to draw the distinction between Sarah keeps speaking to mill rate. I don't think we should talk about mill rate at all. I think we should talk about the tax levy, the total amount of taxes that's going to be collected in order to support the budget.
What I was trying to say, Anthony, and just go into that quickly, is that the kind of language that they have right now in the petition needs a mill rate.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Percentage.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can do the same thing that they're wanting to do with the tax levy. You don't need to calculate a mill rate for
Well,
that.
I would like to know how much my taxes are going next year with the tax levy.
You can do that. It's going to be overall, but individual property owners aren't going to know what the increase is on their properties because tax value, the valuation of the tax base changes from year to year. And so that shifts the tax burden among taxpayers.
Levy is divided of the value of the whole town, that value of the whole town can change. That percentage will be a sag on the tax book.
Yes, but you don't know the levy until taxes are committed. And ergo, you know what the levy is, but you can't, but no, we're not.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not.
So,
No, we're not. You'll know what the levy is. You won't know how it's divided, which is because you won't know what the value of the tax base is until the assessor sits down to commit taxes.
The school comes, or before we vote, the school says we're going up by this percent. And the county says we're going up by this percent. But I still don't know what our taxes are going up. Even though I was on the budget.
Yes, you do. I told you, Kathy.
No, but the town has not told anyone.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not true. I stood up at town meeting and I said that the tax levy is going down by $400 and something thousand.
Town. This has not come and said that.
I agree.
Ordinance asks that the town say it. That's all.
And I agree. And so if we're all in agreement that's what you guys are looking for, then we're good. I think if not in an ordinance, I think it should at the very least be in a financial policy.
So all the individual warrants and comparing it to 2020.
But you didn't compare revenues at the same time. So you can't tell. I understand. You're right. You're right. But that's the problem with focusing only on expenses. So the expenses are going to increase whatever percent. Agreed. I'm just saying it's too simplistic of a view to look at your expenses and say, oh, well, taxes are going up that much. No, because revenues are probably going to increase year over year as well. And you've got to factor in the offset there.
No, you're,
Well done.
okay, Julia?
No, I just wanted to move forward and ask, about section 1, part 2. So, I have felt like our presentation of the budget has been lackluster. Because it's really just been us handing out things and saying, read this and understand it. I'm curious, when you say specific reasons for which the town needs the funds. If you have more information about how would be a helpful way to communicate that information, what specifically you're looking for, so that we can think about it in how we articulate the financial policy and those expectations.
I think I've seen other town budgets where they spell it all out. We're spending this on the truck, we're spending that on the school, we're spending this on such and such. You know what, we're gonna buy the blah blah. Oh yeah, we need, I'm making it up, paper clips. You get the idea.
So to a certain extent, we do that.
Sometimes
I was gonna say, but it's,
warrants, we have a lot of gloved up stuff in
Okay.
there, even on budget committee, I had trouble going through the warrants. Some things, when we do it in budget or in department, but when you look at it in the warrants, some of those department things are the.
so I guess that's why I'm asking, how would you like it explained? What would be like
I think I think that would be up to the town to implement. You know, I ran an agency for 15 years. My board said to me, we want our policy to do this. I had to write the procedures as to how we were gonna do it, and I go back to the board and say, this is how we're gonna implement that. I think the select board should be doing that.
Okay.
All right.
candidly,
But
no.
I guess, Kat, Carol, we're trying to find out what would, if you were the queen of Belgrade, not that you're not. What would satisfy you to this extent? Like what sort of?
Bruce, you know, taxpayers wanna know what they're voting on. They wanna know how much their taxes are gonna go up. They wanna know what the increase in the town budget is, which we don't get that either. They wanna look at the trees in the forest, they wanna know about the forest. That's as good as I can tell.
The reason I'm asking this question is the select board has felt as though what they're doing is sufficient. I think that the majority of us in this room don't feel that way. It would help me to advocate for a different system if I can articulate what voters are looking for. I haven't had much luck with my suggestions, and so I would just love to add what you're looking for to that impression. Does that make sense? It's like,
Yes.
like I wanted to do presentations, for instance.
Yeah, I want the town to say, we're spending this stuff, we're spending this money, and this is why. This is what it says, the specific reasons which the town needs the funds.
So can I follow up on that with just a quick question?
Can we keep more so more?
I'm just trying to have a conversation. Matt, speak, Bruce.
Who's had their hand up? You had your hand up, Ben.
I just wanna, this is like a conversation, it's not a real meeting. We are bound by rules or orders, and the chair has to acknowledge the person to talk. And Anthony just,
So,
which in every time it
I'm
works.
going that, we do not follow Robert's rules. We have not accepted that as a budget committee. We're just an advisory committee.
Please go on. Please go on. Please, let's just keep it going.
Understand who's talking or what not, and I have my hands off, waiting to get knowledge.
Go ahead. So Carol, let me give you three choices. See if any of these appeal to you. Just as a level of detail, okay? So are you looking at for like a line by line explanation of the budget? Are you looking at a summary of major cost drivers? Or are you looking for explanations of new expenditures?
All of them?
So you wanted to, I can read what it says. You want it to be really granular then? You do? Okay. Do you think that's going to be overwhelming to, John Q. Public?
You know, really surprised we're still on section 1, because section 1 seems so simple to me.
Well,
Lawyers bless
but
them.
it's not. But it's not, because you can see, we have questions about like, what does this mean and what would it entail and what should we recommend to the select?
voting without understanding the budget, how much it's going up. What we're buying, why we're buying it, and why the town isn't using reserves. And that's basically what section 1 is about. The taxpayers are frustrated. Their taxes are going up in
Listen,
significant ways.
listen.
They don't know why.
Listen, why do you think each one of us is sitting here? Okay.
The language is simple.
It's not. It's too simple. It's too simple. To Jillian's point, if we're not specific about this stuff, this is how you end up in trouble.
The opposite, like, I'm a lawyer and I'm
Sure, the opposite either.
and I love this budgeting stuff surprisingly, but I have thought a lot about how do we actually do this, because this meets a lot of the goals that I came on with. But, if what you want is an explanation from each department, a presentation that's recorded, something like SACO, something like Freeport, those specifics of what would be an effective way to communicate, I think will give us a much better outcome, because so far, no one's like, we're trying to encourage people to do something better, but we haven't made that progress. So,
I think what the select board implements in their wisdom will probably be acceptable because this language is simple.
Kathy?
I was gonna say that the attorney opinion that we had said, if it passes, the town would have to put language in place to interpret it, and that's what they would do if it passed. So it seems to me that this discussion that we're having, all of these questions will have to be, if they put it on, if it passes, all of these questions will have to be dealt with by the select board after that. But we can't change this language now.
And we're not,
Just saying.
and we're not asking anyone to change it. We're trying to gain understanding.
So in this section 1, item 1 is following to me and item 4 is really following to me. I can read with item 2 and 3, if we start creating that, means that we have to document the law and demand from the head departments to start documenting. I don't know how they're gonna receive that, but I thought that in the budget process, it was just enough, the fact that we have a sheet with the article, and there's a line by line on where it's gonna be spent, the total for last year and what is proposed this year, and then the actuals. I thought that was more than enough, but it seems that this petition is requiring a narrative. I don't have any issue with that either, but it's a lot more work, it's substantial more work.
So the department heads already do that.
They do, but they come here and they verbalize what they need. They don't come here with their own presentation from the department with a paperwork saying, few budget seasons ago, there was something that facilities wanted and say, can you bring 3 different quotes? And that was not there.
So-
That was not documented.
So let me rephrase that.
Sure.
Some departments are already doing that and have been doing that for years.
So,
They have a sheet. They have the, what they
quotes,
need,
yeah,
you know,
Kenny does, yeah.
Kenny does, safety does.
Yeah.
I can't speak on the rec because. They're new at doing the budgetary stuff, but yeah, so some departments have been doing very well. And have been doing it for years.
so Catherine, my thought is, we have the opportunity to present to the select board what we think is a workable way to implement this, rather than passing it and then throwing it to the select board who you're unhappy with, right? You're doing this because you're unhappy with what has been done in the past. And so we have the opportunity to explain to them, this is what the petition, how this petition could be implemented in a way that makes our town better. And so to me, I'm seeing this more as an opportunity for us to explain to the select board where we have questions and have gotten clarification, where we maybe still have questions, And then ways that we could implement these components, whether it be after a vote and an acceptance of the voters or in a financial policy. So for instance, number 4, the CPI. The CPI is this year is a good example. It's been all over the place. Are you, when this was drafted, was it anticipated that it would be an annual average in CPI, the CPI in a particular month?
I thought on the day they do the work, they pick that day. CPI on that day.
Okay, even though that may not reflect the entire year. I mean, I'm genuinely asking, if we're thinking about a
So let
year.
me say again, it's a legal document. No attorney has said section 1 is illegal.
I'm not
And the-
saying
yeah,
it's
no.
legal.
And the select board is required to put it on the ballot or not, based upon what it says. And so if no one has said that section 1 is illegal, then it's okay to go out to the voters. Section 2, they said they don't like it, it's illegal. Section 2 falls under the severability clause, the last one, it says it's severable.
But that's
Okay.
my question.
I know it isn't.
My question
This is a legal document and the select board is required by law to put it on the ballot or not put it on the ballot. And if they don't put it on the ballot, they have to say why they're not.
So you're fighting with me about
No.
something that's not my.
I spend a lot of time talking about something when this is a legal document and the select board has to vote it up or down. We can talk about it forever. We can talk about it if they don't. We can talk about it if they do. And then afterwards, there's gonna be a big discussion about how we implement it.
So
Put it on the ballot and it could fail. But for me, it's a legal document and the board is required by law
Okay,
or not put it.
okay, we understand that. You don't have to say it again.
May I interrupt for just a moment?
Please. Oh, and Mary, oh, go ahead, please.
Who's speaking?
It's Miss Gagny.
Ms. Gagny, yes, the way that this meeting is being held is very unprofessional, sir. The way that you have been talking to her is condescending and you're gaslighting. It's not respectable. You open the meeting up swearing. And then I think the bottom line is what you're not understanding is there's a little bit more work that needs to be done. You're annoyed by this meeting. We can all tell that you're annoyed by this meeting. She has every right to bring her concerns without you stepping in, sir, to tell her to stop repeating herself. You, sir, have been elected to represent us. You are not going to sit there and condescend her and talk down to her, sir. Thank you.
All right, and Mary, you had your hand up as well?
No, I just, Lisa had in the chat there for quite a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see
That's
that.
okay.
Doing?
Lisa, if I could just respond. The purpose of tonight's meeting was to try to do some of that work. The reason we had asked people to come was so that we could try to work through this so that when the select board asked the volunteer budget committee what our opinion of this was, we could understand how it would actually get implemented within the structure. And so I think to the extent you're hearing frustration from me, it's because I don't feel like I can give any better of an opinion because the answer I keep getting is that it has to go on. But that, to me, that wasn't the purpose of tonight's meeting. The purpose was to better understand your goals for each section, to ask questions about what your expectations were, so that when we go to the select board and town meeting, we can talk intelligently about it and have had a good, robust discussion. Some of these things, I mean, you have a right to leave it up to the select board, but if you have the opportunity to give advice and suggestions to the select board about how it should be implemented, it seems crazy to me that we wouldn't do that. At this point, we are still on 1 and I do still have questions. If I were asked today, I would say that I don't think we should implement something that hasn't gotten that additional work. So I don't know, I guess I feel very stuck because I do have legitimate questions. I do want to see a lot of these things implemented in our financial policy. but I'm not actually getting any helpful answers.
Right, so I'll just say again, I don't think the law says that the select board should reject a legally signed document because they don't understand how to implement it. It says, if it's illegal, then they vote it down. If it's legal, then they put it on. That's my point. I don't,
But they're gonna ask us in a public meeting what our opinion is. And my answer would be, I don't understand how this would actually function, and I have concerns, X, Y, and Z. And none of my concerns have been addressed despite asking the questions. You know, that would be my position, and that's not the position I necessarily wanna hold, but I just don't feel like we're having a productive conversation. Like the CPI, whoever drafted this had an idea of what that was supposed to mean. You know, when I don't understand a statute, I look at the legislative history of the people who drafted it and see what they were thinking when they
Answer that
wrote it.
question.
And so I'm trying to
I
understand
answered
kind of the legislative
I
history.
answered the question. I said, I assumed I wrote it, an attorney reviewed it.
Okay.
I assumed that on the day the select board was deliberating on the issue, they would look up, what is the CPI today? And that would be what they would use. Now,
But it's up to the select board to decide that. In other words, I feel like I don't wanna say, we're not beating a dead horse, we're beating a live horse, but we have to just talk this, if this passes. So my understanding is, select board either decides to put it on or decides not to put it on. If they put it on and it passes, all these things we're talking about now are things that the select board has to address and that the budget committee would have to address. But the real issue now, at least my understanding from the legal point of view is, if they're valid signatures and they ask it to go on the ballot, that the select board has to put it on the ballot. And the attorney opined that if it passed, the select board would have to draft something or to put a plan out to implement it. We can't say, one, will it pass? Because we don't know. I'm not even sure how I'm gonna vote for it, but it'd be up to the voters. If it passes, then all of this discussion happens. That's my thinking on it.
Anthony,
Kathy, you don't pass an ordinance, then figure out how it's going to work after the fact. That's just simply not how it's done.
They have a petition and then they have to either put it on or not put it on.
But Kathy, that,
Recommend this budget committee that they not put it on because it's unclear.
that would be my recommendation at this point. But that's what, to Jillian's point, that's why we're asking all these questions. So we better understand.
It's legal. I think it'll be hard to implement. Because either it's legal and then it must go on.
But that's
It
not,
must go on if the select board deems it to be legal. That's what the law
Well,
says. It doesn't say we can debate and
Yeah.
like it, we don't know how to implement.
Yeah,
The
well,
law says petition goes out.
that's not my understanding of Mr. Socher's interpretation.
Law
Sarah,
Well,
on petitions.
I agree with what Mr. Wilson is saying on that. I have a hard time when, for instance, you go in section 3, property, let's keep one, we don't go anywhere with one. Section 2, let's go on section 2. How do you pick 175,000 to be?
Section 2 is illegal, it has to be severed from this.
Okay.
It's pointless to discuss it, it can't be in there, the attorney.
So
it's not legal.
section 2 is up.
Section 2 is out,
well,
lawyer said it's illegal.
Anthony.
and to my point, the severability clause is for something that is passed and you find out after the fact that there's something problematic with it. You shouldn't put something on the ballot that you know is problematic from the jump. That is not my lawyer, man.
Severability language.
And so section 3 then, that's also legal?
The lawyer opined that violated a statute, I can't remember which one, but the lawyer's letter
Section
said
2 is out,
section
section
2
3.
violated something. in
Section 3 was not the only section that either of the attorneys said they didn't like was section 2.
Okay, so section
All the
3,
rest of
okay,
it
let's
was
go on
legal.
section 3. Can it will be fair?
Yeah.
Go on section 3. Okay.
I agree.
Section, we don't do any movement in section 1. Section 3, property tax increase are capped to the CPI. unless specifically approved voters in general election. So when you say it's capped to that, let's say that the CPI will be 2%. And an increase of the budget requires a 5%. It means that we can only increase the budget for 2%.
No, you come to the town meeting and you say, we have this ordinance that says the CPI is blah, we can't go over that, but gosh, we had to go over that for these reasons. Here's the reasons why we had to go over, these are the places where we went over, now the taxpayer knows why you went over that, because a lot of taxpayers who signed said, gosh, inflation is 5 and my taxes are up, you know.
So perfect, you
300%.
think anybody's gonna increase their taxes beyond the CPI?
I'm just saying you-
Okay, listen, we go through this every 5 years with the cost sharing formula committee, and we require Rome and Belgrade, the other 2 towns, to take fiscal responsibility from us, and they don't. Nobody's gonna increase their taxes. So let's say we actually need 5% to run the town, but it's only 2%, and the voters say, no, we're gonna keep it at 2.
Well, you
So how are we gonna run the town?
that could happen anyway, you go there and a warrant doesn't necessarily pass. I'm just saying.
Well, to Sarah's point, though, depending upon what's happening with the school budget alone could require a tax increase
It could be
of more,
yes.
of more than the CPI, and the town has no authority over it.
So you come to the thing and you say,
But
look,
what if
we
they,
can't change the school
but what
budget,
if-
it drives us up to this.
but what if what Sarah just said happens? What if they say, wow, we don't care, we're gonna vote it.
Say that could, any warrant the town brings to town.
It can't. It
They could
can't.
vote it down.
They can vote down the warrants, they can vote, but they can't cap the taxes at something below what the warrants call for.
Well,
And in the case of the county assessment and the school assessment, we don't have any control over that.
Just trying to squeeze the town so that they can't do anything, they're just asking them to come and say why this number is higher.
Yeah.
That would be-
Melanie has her hand raised online. You wanna,
Go ahead, Melanie. Can you hear us now?
Melanie, you're unmuted, but we cannot hear you. Whoops. There she went.
Oh, I'm muted. No,
She's on. She is muted, yeah.
Yeah, she's muted.
But her hand is down. So
Is everybody muted because that's the way you set up the
No,
Zoom?
no, they mute and unmute themselves.
She's on again.
Okay. Melanie, we still can't hear you.
I think she did something. Is there anything on message?
No, I was just looking.
Who was the one channel?
Melanie, try one more time. Okay, Julian?
I think you're gonna give me the same answer, but I had a similar question with the CPI in section 3. I'm curious, are you looking for us to match up our budget development with the CPI when we start developing the budget? And then we're gonna kind of be, the CPI is a moving target, so I'm trying to understand over the arc of our process,
Yeah.
what you have in mind.
The town says, oh, you know what, we have this ordinance, it says, we wanna hold the taxes down. We wanna hold it down to the CPI, 3%, 4%, whatever. That's our benchmark, we try to keep it to that. Oh gosh, you know, we had this horrible thing happen at the transfer station, well, that's gonna put us over, we're gonna have to tell the voters about that. You know, there's property tax problems all over the country. There are groups like mine all over the country who are.
I'm just trying
And
to
there are
process.
caps that get enacted by things like this because voters are fed up.
Just a little history, just,
Just trying to understand understanding when and how we would apply the CPI. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, the CPI averaged over the last year was this, that should be our target for this year. I was just trying to, but you have no preference, it's whatever the board decides.
Implement that way.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, these sort of things, in fact, the state of Maine had something like this, remember? It was called LD1 and it didn't work and the legislature repealed it. No, did it ever reduce taxes in Belgrade? No, it didn't. So, yes.
Every year after.
Yes, but it had nothing to do with the law, Carol. No, it certainly did not, because I used to do the LD1 calculations, and let me just tell you, those numbers were very easily manipulated if someone wanted to reach whatever sort of conclusion that you wanted to as a municipal manager. And that was the dirty little secret among Maine managers forever.
Yeah.
Been here, Tim.
7 years.
You know all.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I have a master's in public administration. I'm a certified Maine town manager.
Tony, you don't have to do self.
Okay, but the reason, the reason, Carol, the reason that your taxes didn't go up for 3 years is because you had good financial management during those 3 years. Oh, but the mill rate did not increase from 2019 to 2022, and it's because you had good financial management. It was not because of LD1.
No, it's still feel that all these implementation questions, you can ask Carol as many questions as we want, but she's not the person who will implement this. For better or worse, this is the language we have. That's all I'm saying.
So you're kicking the ball to the
I'm saying that
ground, and we have to figure out what we for.
in my opinion, we can't play with this particular ball until we know whether it passes or it doesn't pass. If it passes, then we have to play with this ball in this ball game. That's just what I'm thinking.
So I fundamentally disagree because of my experience at the State House. So 2 years ago, the legislator approached Pine Tree saying she wanted to pass a bill about protecting tenants suffering from mold in their house because someone in her community had a child that got very sick. And there was a legislative fix proposed, a statute, and then they called it the landlord's bar and the tenant's bar, you know, the tenant representatives and Pine Tree and Maine Equal Justice, all to give information to the legislative body about how these words would actually work in real life so that they could make a decision about whether this was something they wanted to do. And they rewrote that legislative, you know, those words like 6 different times. And we ended up with, 22 words out of what was, initially 400. And I recognize that we cannot change this language, and I'm not asking to, but I do think an important part of the legislative process is not just reading the plain language and saying yes or no. It's understanding how it would actually function in real life so that the people voting on it can understand it. And that's what I am hoping we can do.
I worked for the legislature for 10 years. I do understand that process.
But I guess that's where my disagreement with your perspective is. I think that that's work that needs to be done first.
So the ordinance process is different. Let's say somebody goes out, let's say it's a same-sex marriage, and they collect X number of signatures. And then they put that to the voters. If the voters pass it, that's it, because the voters have said, we want to put this in now. It could be that the legislature voted down a same-sex marriage proposal, and so somebody went out and collected the number of signatures for a statewide referendum. Statewide referendum passes, and then the legislature has to implement that because the voters asked them to do it. Went to ordinance, went to a vote, and that's the process. That's the same process for this. I know I'm a broken record.
No. We work behind the scenes to figure that all out so that when it actually gets passed, we already have a lot of that information figured out. And so that's what I'm.
So you'll either put it on the ballot or you won't. And you'll make a recommendation to the select board that you think they should or they shouldn't, because you've deemed this to be illegal. therefore it doesn't go on. That would be the decision that you would be making. You would say, we think this ordinance as written isn't legal.
I don't think, I mean, that's not the impression what they've asked.
Right, that's, yeah, so
We're-
necessary.
We're not debating here if it's legal or legal or illegal, that's already, as you said, stated. But we're trying to figure out if it's enforceable. Is it how we're gonna make it that if it passes, be implemented correctly.
There's
So the example used doesn't make merit to what we're discussing. Because same-sex marriage is very obvious to everybody what it's about. But when we're talking about increasing percentages in property taxes, we're not sure what is being talked about. If it's mill rate, is it levy, or what is? So we're asking for your help in order to be able to define this. That's all we're doing. I'm not contesting, at least I don't think anybody here is contesting if this is legal or not, because this is already the will of the voters, right? So we are processing it, so we understand it, so it will go to the ballot. But from my take, if I cannot understand it, neither will be any voter, because we deal with this in and out every year. So to the aspect of, since we're rehashing all this without need, to the aspect of your taxes being set equally, because there was supposed to be great management. Doing that great management, the facilities will let it go. And in the recent years, they have been to be picked up. So that's part of the rate increase in taxes in your bill.
Anthony?
So Kathy, I think the danger in just like passing this and letting the select board figure it out. No, you guys don't trust the select board as it is. Why would you then ask them to turn around and set the rules?
Because that's what the statute says.
No, it's not.
Statute says the voters want this to be voted. You can toss out anything that is deemed to be illegal. Otherwise, the select board at this point in the process says, we're gonna bring it to the voters, or we're not gonna bring it to the voters. And in my, you don't start the football game until the dinger, I don't know that sports. Until the dinger goes, you're not playing the game. In my opinion, either it goes on or it doesn't go on, and our individual ideas about how it gets implemented or not are up to the select board under the law. That's just my thinking. That's what their attorney said.
No.
Can I ask questions about section 5, the reserve account section?
Yeah, okay.
When you say reserve funds, can you explain to me? I genuinely just asking what particular group of funds are these? Is this anything we have?
Is this capital
Thank
reserves?
you. Is this
I answered that question last time I was here, and I said, that's unrestricted.
It
Okay,
says,
that
it's
I'll
that's-
go with unrestricted.
So that's the unassigned fund balance is what you're talking about. Okay, so we're not talking about capital reserves. Okay. Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question to that? So the 15%, how did y'all arrive at that?
Portland's reserve amount is 16%. They're a big town, lots of people. So I set it at 15%, which seemed high to me for a little town like Belgrade with 3,200 people.
Our accountant said between 8 and 16 when we had her.
Well, I don't think,
That's all I'm saying.
I don't think that's what she said, though. To be clear, what she said was the Government Finance Officers of America recommend 16%, but she has seen towns go as low as 8%.
She said, that's what she said.
So, and really and truly, like the size of your budget doesn't really matter as far as that goes, because Portland, for instance, is going to pay a much larger school assessment. And so when you calculate that, it's all of your expenses. I know there's been some talk about, well, why do we include the school's budget in here? Because they have their own capital reserves, which they do. But the unassigned fund balance, the undesignated fund, none of that money ever goes to the school for capital. That's to cover the payments that the town must make on a monthly basis to the school district.
May I say something? I think Miss Gagany has her hand raised.
Yeah, we see her, Nick.
Here's what Title 30A 2504 says concerning local initiatives.
Okay,
Requires signatures from a number of voters equal to at least 10% of the votes cast in the town at the last gubernatorial election with a minimum of 10 signatures. Action required. Municipal officers must place the requested article in the next warrant or call a special town meeting within 60 days. Municipalities are legally barred from prohibiting the open circulation of petitions.
yeah, Carol, I don't think anyone's disputing that. As Jillian said, we were not asked to make a recommendation to the select board on the legality of your petition, but on the merits of it.
All right, Lisa,
Oh, thank you.
Lisa?
Yep. Just a quick question. I didn't know if I missed it or not. As far as the language on the petition, did the Secretary of State have to revise how the petition was written at all, or was everything written the way that you wanted it to be written, Carol? I don't know if I missed that.
Because it's a local ordinance, so it
Yeah.
doesn't go to the Secretary of State, because it's not a statewide petition.
It doesn't have to. Okay. I wasn't sure if it had to. Yep. Okay.
My attorney rated.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
I just have another question about section 5. I don't understand what you mean when you say individual line items amounts that in the aggregate are more than 10% of unencumbered surplus funds shall be considered part of the 10% aggregate.
We didn't want some little funds to be considered all separate from the 15%. So we wanted to make sure that all the little funds that make up the reserve counted.
So all the little,
Unrestricted reserves, she's not talking about capital expenses or specific reserves.
And I'd have to get clarification from our attorney on that, but in my eyes, me as a voter, okay, I'm not very smart when it comes to legal stuff, so. I'll be one first to admit that. In my eyes as a voter, I look at that and I say, oh, you're restricting capital reserves to 15%. That's what your petition says. So as a voter, I'm gonna say 15% of capital reserves, that should say undesignated.
Yeah.
That
He-
first
he-
sentence says-
Yeah, well, no, he's right, because there are very few, so at times the petition vacillates between appropriations and encumbrances. And the town of Belgrade has very few encumbrances, because encumbrances are commitments of funds that have already been appropriated. And so for instance, the unencumbered surplus funds, those are most of the capital reserves, simply because they haven't been encumbered for a specific use. Now, they might be appropriated for fire equipment, but they haven't been encumbered for a specific fire apparatus, as an example, because an encumbrance typically is accompanied by a purchase order, and the town of Belgrade does not use a purchase order system. So I think Bruce is right in what he just said.
I mean, I'll be upfront and honest, as a taxpayer, that is one of my biggest sticklers on that, because that doesn't, in my eyes, that doesn't spell it out. I don't know, so in my eyes, if you're saying that is for the undesignated, then in my eyes, that, I'd have to get a, clarification from legal on that.
Yeah, and despite your explanation, Carol, I'm still a little confused about that second sentence. So let me ask you a quick question. So the town has approximately $3 million in its undesignated fund as of December 31st, 2025, right? And it has approximately $3 million in capital reserves for future capital improvements. So given those two numbers, how would either one of those numbers change, or would they, with what the second sentence there says? Okay, but knowing that all of the funds are unencumbered, they are. So ma'am, there's a difference though between an appropriation and an encumbrance. And so all of the funds have been appropriated, but very few of them have been encumbered, because in your prior work, have you ever worked for a system that used purchase orders?
No.
I mean, Mike, you probably have in the city of Augusta. So Belgrade, because you know it's small, doesn't use any purchase orders. Though when I worked in a larger city with the budget, as soon as the budget year began, we would encumber a certain amount of monies in certain line items to say, okay, these are only to be used for these specific purposes. Those are encumbrances of appropriations that happen. So there is a distinction between the two. And so again, when you say the unencumbered surplus funds, that doesn't speak to your undesignated fund.
Surplus to me,
I
is undesignated money is in surplus.
okay, regardless of what it means to you, the words themselves actually mean something different.
Select board that you just can't tolerate this petition and it's illegal. The language is illegal, despite the fact that no attorney has said that language is illegal. And you're gonna recommend that they not put it on the ballot.
No, I'm going to speak to the merits of the petition. I'm not going to speak to the legality because I'm not an attorney.
I want to understand both. So I think the example is helpful to me since I'm still learning all the terms. So would you, in your mind, section 5 wouldn't impact our capital reserves as they are?
Because those are capital reserves set for a particular item.
So-
So that's what it's for.
So in your mind, that was encumbered.
Yes, that's encumbered. In my mind, unencumbered surplus is money that the town is holding on to. It is a surplus that is unencumbered.
That helps.
Yeah, I mean, that's
No
a real
problem.
difference.
An unencumbered surplus.
Yeah.
A surplus that is unencumbered. Okay.
Okay, but just so we're all on the same page, all of Belgrade surplus is unencumbered. It's appropriated, but it's not encumbered. Okay, so
So can you please explain that last one? Because I don't know if I was not here when you explain it, but I would like to have an example. Individual line items amounts that in the aggregate are more than 10% of the unencumbered surplus shall be considered part of the 10% aggregate. What do you mean by that? Can you give an example?
Okay, so let's say the Public Works Division has $8 million in unexpended surplus over what was budgeted.
Okay.
is that operating surplus?
They have the budget and then they have what you spent, and then at the end, there's what you didn't spend.
Right.
That's a surplus.
Right.
And you said, we're gonna buy 50 pencils, you didn't buy any pencils, you have all the money left in the budget for pencils that didn't get spent. That would be an unencumbered surplus
Yeah,
at the end of the budget year.
yeah.
That would be part of the aggregate of what would be considered the surplus.
Okay, so
The 15%.
I got you.
Okay.
So what,
So are you saying it would?
can I finish on?
Yeah,
When you talk about 10%, what is the 10% about? The 10% in the, of the unencumbered and the 10% of the aggregate? Where are those 10%? What part those 10% are from?
I don't understand.
So-
Well, that's the thing, I don't understand it either, because you said, let's just, for instance, that at the end of the year.
Okay, so let's
Hold on,
say-
hold on.
Let's say you bought 6.
Let's go back to the example, let's do, instead of 10 million, instead of 8 million, let's do 10, so it's easy to work with. So you said Public Works had about 10 million surplus at the end of the year. So how the 10% that you got here in both sides play with that, or how is it?
So the Public Works Department says they're gonna buy 50 pencils.
No, I need numbers, don't talk
Right.
about,
So
things.
they have.
You said
more
we
than
have a surplus of 10%, of 10 million,
More.
surplus of
But
10
it's
million,
surplus.
10 million, how the 10% work with the 10 million?
I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that question.
Well,
You asked me to
then
explain
exactly,
that.
I don't understand what a line means.
Ask it, and I thought it.
So Carol, do you mean that the surplus couldn't grow by any more than 10% in a year? Is that what you mean?
Part of aggregate, what she means is a department can't keep an unencumbered amount in their own department budget that, and so it's squirreled away in there for the 6 pencils. That, if that's squirreled away and is unencumbered because they didn't spend it, that would be added into 15%. In other words, they can't have these separate little pools everywhere that make it over 15%, and then they say, well, we're not over 15%.
Well, and
I think that was the
and I do think that we've addressed that. In fact, at this year's town meeting, by yeah. So in the past, what the library and the recreation department didn't spend rolled into their own capital reserves, and we said that's bad fiscal policy. And so now all of that rolls into the undesignated fund. So, okay, so there are still 2 departments that we do have that happen. One is the yes, one is the fire department, and one is public works. And the reason that we're, at least I think the understanding of the group is, I know this is true for me, the reason we feel more comfortable with that is just because of the capital intensity of those operations. Like fire trucks are expensive and paving is expensive. So, you know, when we do the paving project every 3 years, we tap into that public works capital reserve so that we don't have to raise and appropriate as much taxes.
Each department should just not carry this bank balance of unencumbered funds that the town hasn't said goes to public works or goes to the fire truck or goes to whatever. That, I think that's what the thinking.
Okay, so Kathy, is your understanding then is that with the possible exception of fire and public works, that we've already like addressed this through the changes that we made in this year's budget?
Well, once we get to the policies, presumably we're gonna have a cap on
Right.
the unrestricted, we would address that. And I think the purpose of the ordinance is that people come and go and policies change depending on people, and if there was an ordinance that said that.
Okay,
that would be-
I guess let me rephrase my question. Did we accomplish this in this year's budget with the exception of police, fire and public works?
You mean the 15% reserve?
No, the second line.
Did the budget this year, I did not see little chunks of cash sitting in some department that didn't roll into the unrestricted, and once it rolled.
That's right, there were only 2. There were only 2. Okay, so yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
That was, that was incredibly helpful, because I read that to mean something incredibly different from what you have explained. And my concerns about it were very large, but now that I understand what you're explaining, I feel very different. So I do appreciate you unifying us. I'm not, like, I really genuinely.
Are we up to? Section 4 is probably, since we got rid of the perpetuity articles, that's probably doesn't need to be in there, but this was written
It's fine,
before
yeah,
that, right?
it's not a problem.
And so in section 5, that's what we're talking about.
Well, and to be clear, I don't know that there are any ordinances related to the retention of unspent funds. I don't think that there are any ordinances related to the retention of unspent funds. I mean, there are warrant articles each year that have spoken to that, but there's no ordinance. To an ordinance?
Yeah, I asked about the perpetuity ordinances and you actually sent me a link.
Oh, okay. So those are the ones that we repealed this year, though. Okay. Okay. But those are, okay, but those aren't ordinances. Those are perpetuity articles.
So, regarding, unassigned monies, at the end of the year, state law, any surplus go automatically on unassigned. That's state law.
Yeah, if unless in a town meeting form of government is designated to go into a specific capital reserve, everything goes into the undesignated.
So then I don't really understand the gas with section 5. Can you elaborate that? Because I don't see the connection between the 10% and the monies that go there.
Well, as we did.
We budgeted $10 and we spent $9. That $1 goes to unassigned right off.
Unless the warrant, unless It's not, it's undesignated. It's not, it's unappropriated.
Can you explain that? You seem to understand. Can you explain it?
State your question again, please.
So, I understand by state law,
Yeah,
it's happening in the RSU as well.
yeah.
If we budgeted $10 and the actuals are only 9.
Yeah.
That $1 go instantly to unassigned.
That is correct, unless in a warrant article, the article says that it's going to roll into a capital reserve, which is the case with the public works and the public safety articles.
Yeah, so what this individual line items that in the aggregate are more than 10% of the unencumbered surplus funds shall be considered part of the 10. I don't know what I don't understand what the 10% of the unencumbered, that will be the unassigned.
So yeah, that's my understanding, right, Carol? That 10% of unencumbered surplus funds, you're speaking about the undesignated fund.
Is there pencils? I didn't buy the pencils for the Public Works Department.
The unassigned fund balance.
It's part of the 15%.
So in our case, you'd have to have like, you'd like to have like $300,000 for that to mean anything, which is never going to be the case with Public Works and Fire.
This particular budget committee has done a lot of work in addressing the issues that were raised by this ordinance. And I think if there had been more transparency in the past, and if the budget surpluses hadn't been running at 800,000 a year after year, I don't think this ordinance would have come into effect. So you and I are on the budget committee because we had some of these issues, and I think that's where this ordinance has come from.
I agree with that.
I'm so confused. I'm so
Okay.
confused. What is the 10% aggregate?
So what they're saying is if, let's say that you had $100,000 in unspent monies in the Public Works budget. I mean, y'all correct me if I'm wrong about this. $100,000 of unspent money in the fire department budget. In the aggregate, that would be $200,000. And if that is more than 10% of the 15% unassigned fund balance, you couldn't put more than 10% of that in. Did I state that correctly? Okay, y'all give it a try now.
I don't understand what you're saying.
It's very important to understand these numbers.
All of this, the monies that were not spent, that don't automatically roll into the undesignated fund, instead roll into a capital reserve.
Yeah,
They can't add up to more than 10% of your undesignated fund.
If they're more than 10% unencumbered surplus, they would be part of the 15% cap. So,
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well, the 15% cap is the 15% cap regardless.
Didn't want these little things to say, oh no, that's Public Works. That doesn't count.
But let me point out just one interesting thing about the 15% is at times you are going to go over 15% because you're not going to know that you're going to eclipse revenues by this much or underspend by this much. And so that's why most years that the town has then moved money from the undesignated fund into capital reserves so that they can cash fund capital improvements in the future. And that's how you sort of control the 15%.
The town just decides to keep all this and be moved somewhere.
No, ma'am, your taxes have gone up because we've needed stronger financial management.
That's all I can say from taking signatures of our taxpayers.
Yeah, but
I promise not to speak, but I'm gonna violate.
Please.
One of the issues, you know my background, and I'm not gonna go into it, but one of my issues has always been capital funded in this community. I strongly support it. Okay,
Mhm.
but I never see a warrant on it. One of the things we wanted or desired.
Yeah.
Is fire department needs a new fire engine, okay? We need to fund it.
Right.
I mean, fire and rescue is critical to every person that lives in this community. Critical.
Mhm.
I wanna fund that. I feel there should be a capital, investment policy. Or so.
Agreed.
So that you adopted one.
Agreed.
In Winthrop, I think this last year,
2024.
24. That's something I used to operate on.
Mhm.
And that's one of our concerns, is the money was taken, unspent monies was automatically rolled over.
Mhm.
Whether it was needed or not, we didn't know what it was for, you know, so if the fire department needs a $750,000 engine, and there's only $500,000 in it, let's fund it through a warrant.
Mhm.
I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to do.
No, I think you're in agreement with all of us here.
Yeah, but I think that has been done, Mike, in that it's funded, but it's funded not through raising and appropriating taxes. It's funded through taking surplus
Yeah.
dollars
And
and
it's-
appropriating them for that use.
Never gonna. All the budgeting and I had to do, and rate setting I had to do, I've never seen a situation like what this town does, how it operates. Really.
I mean, explain more. I mean, what do you mean by
Well,
that?
I mean, it's like Carol says, I mean, we go to the town, in the annual town meeting, we have a whole list of warrants. And so we see each individual tree and what it will cost,
Mhm.
but we never know what the whole forest is gonna be.
And we're back to section 1, and I think we're in agreement that taxpayers need more
That's,
transparency.
rate hearings like that, and, you know, I've never gone to a rate hearing like that, I wouldn't dare walk into the room and talk to the public about something like that without the public knowing, or the ratepayers knowing what we're proposing.
Okay, can I ask you a quick question? Because
Sure.
I want to make sure that I either heard or didn't hear you correctly. So is your concern about once the money is in the capital reserve,
Mhm.
how it gets spent from there, or simply the funding of the capital reserves themselves?
I think a couple of things. One, I ran a capital and test facility.
Right.
And facilities, not just one, multiple facilities.
Right,
I had to set up capital replacement funds for each one. So I knew what I needed to request in my budget.
Mhm.
So that's something I think should be public information. Ratepayer information. In
Oh.
other words, when I go,
Oh, you want us to have a capital improvement plan that's
yeah.
put out to the public?
put out
Agreed.
them. And I think you'll get a tremendous amount of support for it, because people will actually see.
Yeah.
You know, the fire department needs a new ambulance too, or well, we bought one.
Right.
Okay, you know. Let's set up a policy that does it, that way we know, you know, instead of just taking the unspent funds and roll it into capital, let's have a plan.
Yeah.
And that requires work by those who maintain equipment, you know.
I think we're all in agreement to you. And for those of you who don't know Mike, his background is he was a bigwig in Augusta Water Utilities.
Water and wastewater. I wasn't a big league.
Yeah. Can I read Melanie's statement here? Because she couldn't get through. So Melanie said, my understanding was that the purpose of discussion at tonight's meeting was to see how petition language could possibly be incorporated into the financial policy for the town. If it could be incorporated in a way that satisfies the petitioners and doesn't put undue constraints on the town, could the petition be withdrawn? Or is the intention to move forward regardless of the, hopefully, forward momentum and transparency that the town is striving for? So I'll throw that out there for you guys.
So my,
When I answer Melanie's question, Melanie, I don't know how you can withdraw it without going out to each of the signers and asking them if they want to withdraw it. There's like 300 signatures. We have to go to each one and say we want to withdraw it. What do you say? Will you agree to that? That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
and Melanie's got her hand up again. So Melanie, if you're able to unmute and speak now. We're still not hearing you.
We'll get back to Melanie if she puts a message on.
So I can say something about that. If the town moves forward on policies that are connected to this, when and if it passes, if it gets on the ballot, you will have already done a lot of the work.
So what you're saying is you'd be happy to see the policy approved before the election occurs?
Work on policies to address this, but 276 people signed it. The town accepted it. It can't be withdrawn. It's a legal document. You either put it on the ballot or you don't. Because the section of the law says must.
Can I talk?
This is your.
So this is exactly what Robert rule orders do, that we don't talk over each other with those terms. And people will get upset and incorporated. So we always ask the chair to acknowledge us. So I thought I was acknowledged before, but anyways, going to Mike's point. Somehow in the management of governance, monies, this concept of the fact that the end of the year surplus go unassigned and we don't do anything with it, we keep it there, it becomes reserves, it becomes like the golden treasure of all governance in good governance in the state of Maine that I know of. Same thing happens in the RSU, happens in the town, happens in the county, right? So I understand your frustration on that matter. Now, that said, the town, section 5 says the town may maintain a reserve fund of a maximum of 15%. We have literature that I shared with the whole committee from I cannot find it right off on the emails from it's called Government Finance
Oh, Government Finance Officers Association.
Association. And the recommendation from these people nationwide is that we keep in small governances, we keep at least 25% or 50 months of the total budget that is being used. So in our case, we have 6 million. That's exactly half of our budget. This year, from the unassigned, is only 22%. So we are in bracket with what they are recommending. Now, why we're recommending 15 here? Where we got that number from?
Voters are asking you to go to that. And I told you where the
Yeah,
number came from.
that was.
You
also-
said from Portland, okay, but Portland, okay, Portland is much to the understanding that Portland, the budget in Portland is much bigger than here. So we haven't found out, we don't know, if something happens, we don't want to have a ability to pay our bills. So Portland has a budget that probably is 10 times bigger than ours.
You have the ability to go borrow money. Don't tell me you don't.
Well, and then get the town and with interest and send you guys the interest on that money that we're
Yeah, that's what would happen.
I think that's poor management right there.
Actually, the question had been answered before. I don't know whether you were listening or not, but there was a discussion about that before.
Well, I have provided that document with people here in this community, and I'll be happy to send it to you. This is nationwide, and they recommend 6 months of savings or no less than 25%.
Okay,
Alice is asking for 15.
I heard some select people say earlier in the year, we're budgeting for we're budgeting for our reserve. And so, I would like, when the warrants come out, and I think we did a good job of it this year, saying we're gonna spend this from the reserves. If the reserve was capped at whatever the tax, this petition says 15%, then at the end of the year, you would hold it to 15%, and the rest would be spent on items that we have budgeted for. Rather than saying, we padded our budget. we're not gonna tell you what
It's too late at that point, Kathy. You've already committed taxes. Like you can't reduce your tax commitment after you've committed taxes.
It's restricted and we're doing the budget. And we would say our unrestricted is below X. We need to budget Y to put in so that we stay at 15%. And then that would be a warrant. So the taxpayers know it's set at 15%, and at the end of the year it was below that. And so here's a warrant saying we're gonna add to our reserves instead of they ask, I'm gonna stick on it, they ask for debt service, they don't need debt service, and they just roll that into something else without the taxpayers knowing that, because they can. That's
So,
all I'm saying.
so,
It's the purpose of this thinking here.
so just two quick things, Kathy. You would never raise and appropriate taxes in order to build your undesignated fund.
That's what they were doing.
You would I think they were probably speaking of capital reserves, but you would never raise and appropriate taxes to build your undesignated fund.
Well, I couldn't say in here, we have.
You could if you want to be, you could if you want to be tarred and feathered, I suppose, but that would never pass town meeting. Okay, that's why you would never do that. I can only speak to the town budget. I can only speak to the town budget.
Alex.
Wait, I had not yielded the floor.
Speak that Alex.
So you would, no, I'm only speaking about the municipal budget. It would never happen in the municipality.
Neither.
And why would you? Because well, right now we're already eclipsed 15%. So, but the other thing that
is at 25%, it's supposed to be at 15%. We're gonna spend our reserves for these items in our budget next year. Give that back to the taxpayers.
well, wait a second. But we have. See,
We didn't this year.
No. We have traditionally, since 2019, we have traditionally built our capital reserves using those surplus funds so that, and the reason I know this is because Tom Dowd convinced me that this was the right approach to put those monies to good public use, because in the past, the town raised and appropriated taxes in order to build its capital reserves. We started using surplus funds in order to do that. And if you didn't do that, if you managed by a miracle to exactly predict exactly what your expenses are and exactly what your revenues are, you'd still have to raise and appropriate additional taxes in order to build your capital reserves for future capital improvements. This is me being a broken record too. I'm going to say again, if the thinking is, well, you use those funds for operating costs the next year, that's going to feel great until the year when you don't have a surplus, and then your tax rate is going to boing, and you're going to, and
there's been a lack of transparency.
1,000%.
Budget has been, whether on purpose or not on purpose.
1,000%, Kathy. That's why you and I are on this committee.
To give a bit of reassurance that a lot of the things we're talking about are already things on our list that we have as a budget committee that we're working on, and I've been adding to it. You know, one of the things that we've talked about is a comprehensive financial policy with capital asset planning. I would love to see all of our capital assets in a single Excel chart available so that we know exactly what we have for vehicles, exactly what we have for this, what the replacement plan is, how much we're budgeting that. What we need to do, and what I think we're doing as a community, as a budget committee, is changing the way we think about things and asking for money on the front end, because that feels transparent, and you're in a room of people who are trying to do what you're asking for in that respect. We're trying to get the select board and all the department chairs to come along with us in doing that front end planning so that they know that they need to ask for X and Y and be asking for it up front, rather than banking on money being left over to fund those projects. So I think the fire department does that really good, but we need to find a way to communicate to that to taxpayers. What I'm hoping that you'll hear from me is that a lot of these things that you're asking for, we are already trying to do, we're adding to our list. That I hope you will continue to come with good ideas for this sort of stuff if we're missing things that need to be added, because these are all the things we're trying to do in the back end. The other thing we're trying to do is start the budgeting process earlier this year, and as a committee asking for a time frame instead of waiting for the town manager to decide it's time to start, in the hopes that we won't have that experience again. And so that we can publicize more what we're doing when, so that your feedback can come in then, because part of what we need to decide is, if we're gonna spend less money as a town, where on earth is that gonna come from? Because you cannot spend less without cutting something. And those are really difficult and painful decisions, that if we're going to cap how much we spend, we're going to have to meet as a committee to recommend to the select board, so.
And the other thing, as a committee, I'll speak, as a committee, I think we're gonna probably demand a little bit more from management that every time we show up to meeting, budgets don't change. Every meeting we went to, we get a different budget. And it was very frustrating for us.
Like I said, it's like I said, I'm violating what I promised I should do earlier.
I appreciate.
Go for it. Go for it.
It's what, the 27th of July, and I'll repeat something that was said earlier. I haven't seen an official summary of a budget from this community yet.
Are you talking about for the current fiscal year, Mike?
Yeah,
It's fair.
that just stuns me as a
That's
taxpayer,
fair.
let alone being a member of this group. That stuns me. I just can't imagine. The only one I've seen is the one that Anthony posted online, but that's not it. And
That's not a budget.
but it's not.
It's a calculation. It's not a budget.
Yeah, I mean, I did a bunch of that, and you know that, and I posted it. I just don't know how this town's operated like that, doing that. It's like, when I go to the annual meeting, I would expect to receive, I know the warrants have to be voted on, okay? But it's what the select board has voted to be for a warrant, therefore that is what they are proposing us to approve. Okay? I don't see why there isn't a summary sheet submitted then to, as part of the annual town meeting. So when I walk in, let me finish.
Yeah, but what is the summary sheet for? I don't understand.
Here's the individual, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Here's these warrants total up to this amount.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have this income, we're gonna have these expenses, we're gonna have this revenue, and that number is this. The increase from last year is that. It's such a percentage above what we actually spent. This is what's going into our undesignated. All of the things you're looking, it's like painting the Mona Lisa looking through a straw. I see your eyeball over here, but we never see the whole picture. And so the voters come and they're asked to vote on the warrants, and there's not one voter in there that doesn't want our town to pay its bills. We all want the town to pay the bills. We all would prefer to raise our hands and say, yes, I'm for that. Because standing up and saying something different is really not that much fun. But it's not clear, and we're asked to being voted on things where we don't have the whole picture. I still don't have from the town what the increase is in the half-year budget over the prior year, because they never put it out. I made a calculation myself, but I can't put that out and say this is the number. I'm not the town. I'm just making a spreadsheet at home, and I shouldn't have to do that. That's what I'm saying.
I think we all agree we need greater transparency.
I think that's where this ordinance is coming from.
So, well, my quick question is, why through the 6 months that we were doing this budget for June, why we didn't saw people coming here asking for that in the meetings?
Because people are busy. They're working a couple of jobs, they're raising their kids, they're getting their feeding.
Well, you have time to do a petition.
I'm retired, I'm coming here and talk, most people can't.
But it's the first time I see Mike here.
Anthony?
So, Mr. Chair, we've been here 2.5 hours.
Yes.
And I think we've all actually said everything that needs to be said, but it makes me wonder sort of what is our next step as a committee?
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask the committee's opinion.
I mean, we've been asked by the select board to make a recommendation. How are we going to reach that recommendation?
Yes.
If you'd like us to leave the room, we will.
Oh, no.
That is a joke.
One more thing, then I'm done. This is my third attempt to get the town to put a petition that I've collected signatures on the ballot. I've collected well over 600 signatures in this town. Each time the town has said it isn't legal, they haven't presented me with a lawyer opinion that says it isn't legal. They just said it isn't legal, we're not doing it. That happens again, and can be guaranteed I'm going to be collecting signatures. And I'll be asking for a written legal opinion from your attorney
that says you're not putting it on the ballot and isn't legal, and this is the reason why. Okay?
So,
Anthony, it's muted. It's still muted.
It's muted, guys. Can you hear us?
oh, apologies. The owl
Okay.
shut off and then it came back on, and when it did, it was muted. Apologies.
No worries.
From a transparency standpoint, I have this lovely stack of papers, and so I wanted to just announce on the record what we have, because I don't think we've covered that. One of the things that the budget committee has requested is start getting monthly updates from the finance department about where we are in year-to-date spending. So we can have a better idea of how things track over the course of the year, but also catch problems before they become a real problem. And so since we're getting it, it's a public record, so I'm anticipating we'll upload this as part of our monthly agenda, so it'll be available for people to look at. So I just want to publicize that we're doing that. We are going to work on over the course of the year how to do it well. So if you have ideas about how to communicate, because it's like 60 pages, 70 pages, I don't know that you want to read it all, but we do want to have that transparency. So we're gonna be attaching that hopefully on a monthly basis going forward.
So back to Anthony's question. How do we want to proceed?
I will motion that we vote, an item by item on the, petition, if we, feel comfortable with, forwarding it out to the, select board, or we don't.
Oh, okay. Can you repeat that, please, Sarah?
I will motion that the committee here will vote on section by, on the petition, section by section.
Section by section.
Right? And whether we like it, or we will support it for the board to place it in the ballot or not.
I think there is certainly.
We need a second.
We got a motion, so anybody want to second that?
Can I ask a clarification on your motion?
Sure.
That's where I was going then. My understanding was that we were supposed to make recommendations about how it would be implemented, not whether or not it's legal. And I am.
No, I'm not saying that is legal or not. I'm saying if we're gonna suggest the board to move forward and we want, recommendations were implemented. So section by section, we're gonna go over it. read it and say, well, we like this, we don't like this. We think this is viable, we think it's not viable. So maybe we can vote on whether it's implementable or not. Section by section.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
Like, if you give me email, I can send you, you go through that, but all you about. Thank you for.
Do we have a second?
Can we just like leave the motion there on the table while we maybe discuss some options for how we're gonna come to a recommendation? Because this is, yeah, because this is very nuanced and
Thanks, folks.
and I myself am unsure as to exactly how we should proceed.
Yeah, so am I.
Me too.
He said the same thing. He agreed on it. Yeah.
It is a whole thing, like a whole set of provisions, and so I don't know that it is helpful to the select board to, in terms of decision making, to have a decision in pieces. I think a whole decision may be more useful. I think that we need to emphasize to the select board that this just further supports the fact that this process is not working. I think there has been the illusion that what we've been doing has been good enough on the select board. And this cements for me the opinion that this is, the process we've been using is not good enough. But I do have concerns about how this would actually be implemented. I just still have a lot of questions, although many were answered. Not a question whether or not it's legal, just like how do we actually do this in real life?
There was a legal letter where the attorney presented 3 or 4 options to the select board about what they could do in response to this. I'm gonna recuse from any vote on here because I think I conflict from being on the other committee over the last 3 years. But I think the attorney made some suggestions to them for what they needed to do, and that the select board needs to make a decision about which of those options it would take. I think I have it. I think it was.
Are you talking about the letter from Phil Socher?
Nor the one signed by Grady.
It said they can reject it and not put it on. What the other things were? Julian.
Are you talking about the July 1st email from Grady or a
The
different?
one before this most recent one.
So one from Grady, the.
I believe it. That was the opinion from the attorney that recused himself. So
He had to recuse himself, but I am talking about the options.
Oh, so the one from Phil.
Thank you, Nicholas, but he recommended some options that the select board could take. Put it on, don't put it on. Is that it?
I'm gonna see if I can find the email.
And so I think the select board has to make a decision about. My way of thinking is the select board either has to decide they're gonna reject it. Or they're gonna not reject it.
Just whole cloth.
I mean, that's my understanding, and if they've got the signatures and they don't wanna put it on the ballot like the signatures asked, then they have to say, we're not putting it on the ballot. Here's why we're not putting it on there. It seems like it's a black and white thing to me. Then if it doesn't pass, it's all moot. But if it passes.
Do you have the copy of that too?
Phil's letter basically says he doesn't like section 2 and why. And he doesn't say that anything else is illegal. And he doesn't offer
Any
suggestions.
Okay.
Maybe all the
Mary.
suggestions.
The original
We
letter.
have some time to reread that.
I hope it's not with us. I hope that we can continue to implement the types of policy.
Oh, I think everybody here agrees with that, right? But suppose we got a whole new select board and a whole new town manager and a whole new budget committee, and they decided they wanted to implement something different. Or go back to the old way, or they wanted one, I'm just saying that the reason for the ordinance is people change the rules for how to deal with
Send email,
taxpayers.
sent on July 24th, says review from Phil Saucer. We sent to all of us.
But yeah, that's the Phil one, the letter that Kathy's talking about came from Grady.
That's dated July 21st, the one that you have there, and you read? Yeah.
Yeah, there should be one for, I think it's July 1st.
And Grady drafted one of the petitions.
Right. So his recommendations really should be.
I mean, it's very common, most of the work I do, I can see both sides. And it's very common that both sides have very good arguments, it's not.
Yeah, I don't think this, he doesn't really tell the select board what to do. He just says they don't like section 2.
Right.
That's what he says. And then he attaches the.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's that. There's one.
Yeah, oh my gosh, of course.
Thank you.
Alright.
Anybody got anything?
I think we win.
Go ahead, speak.
I think we should say to the select board, we think you should put it on, we don't think you should put it on. That's, because I think that's their choice. I mean, I think that's the choice in front of everybody.
Right, I mean, the only thing that, I would like the board to do before for the next board meeting is get clarification on, number 5. Make sure that doesn't affect our capital reserves, make sure that,
Oh, that it's not capital.
right, that's it, that's,
They might wanna ask either the Maine Municipal Association.
Right.
Then whether that language excludes capital reserve.
Right.
So maybe we could make a recommendation that they check with Maine Municipal.
But the problem is once you vote on something, the ordinance is exactly as it's worded. And it's inartfully worded.
Okay, so all I know is an attorney drafted it.
If-
The attorney that reviewed it said only section 2 is illegal.
But again, Kathy, when you speak to unencumbered balances, there are most everything that in the town's reserves is unencumbered, most everything.
Different terms.
No,
apply to-
encumbrances and appropriations are two separate things.
This is legal language that an attorney should say, and
Well-
two attorneys.
But I want to make a point of order here. We're not talking about legality of the petition that is here. We're talking about how it will be practically implemented if passed. And what is it that we're gonna suggest to the select board, what metrics to use and how to navigate this thing.
So,
We're not voting on the legality of it. That's already decided.
so I think because it's inartfully worded and because there's too many open ends and there's too much left to interpretation without clarity, I think that we should not recommend to the select board that they put this in front of the voters, because frankly, when you tell voters, hey, vote for this, it's going to reduce or cap or lower your taxes or whatever, that's catnip.
Would you motion that?
No, let me talk through this so that and that I think we need to let the select board know that we agree with many of the concepts in here, but because they are inartfully worded and they're too open-ended and in some instances maybe not practical, that we would be doing a disservice to the town to put this in front of the voters. So I think our recommendation would be, don't put this in front of the voters, but instead charge this committee with working toward ways that we can implement many of the provisions in this that would serve the town and the taxpayers well.
I would add to that I would like to see that work done in a certain time frame, so that those people who have brought this petition can determine whether or not they want to circulate a new petition with different or modified language in a timely manner, so that I'm still not sure how it'll land, but to me, the only fair way to do that is not to say trust us, because the trust is gone.
Right.
It's to have a timeline for which these financial policies would be implemented
Yes,
close enough so that they have the ability to resubmit in a timely manner. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
that's-
yes, and I agree with you. There's a lot of moving parts here. It's complicated. But I think that our goal should be to have these policies implemented in the financial policy before the adoption of the FY 28 budget. Because I do think that gives us some time, but it's moving in a way that's going to have some impact straight away.
So we need to have it, if that's the case, we need to have this done before January. Should be done before December, but it should be before, we should have a policy ready for the board for the first meeting in December.
before we start the budget process, because so much of this policy
Right.
forces the municipal government and the board to actually go through the budgeting process in a manner that aligns with these goals. I don't know.
That's ambitious, and I might like push it 1 month, like have to present this to the board in January. And just because it is ambitious and there are a lot of moving parts, and maybe what we do is we recommend sort of a base financial policy that includes the provisions that, we think, again, would serve taxpayers and the community well as part of that base financial policy. And then we start to layer and build on top of that to address, maybe more complex issues like capital asset planning, investment policy, so forth.
My concern personally is that if someone asked me to explain how this would actually function, I don't feel like I could do it, despite my time on the budget committee. And I don't totally feel like I understand the consequences of section 5 in particular. That's the one that gives me the most pause. Unfortunately, things can be used by other people. I don't feel as though the group that is bringing this is going to try to sue the town and force the town to liquidate its reserves and give it back to voters. That doesn't mean someone else isn't going to do that. And so that is the language that scares me.
And again, the severability clause, and back me up on this, Jillian, if you think this is correct, is a standard clause in all ordinances and statutes and so forth, but it's meant to address things on the back end. Like if you're severing things before you've even passed the law, then to me that's problematic.
When I read declared unconstitutional, to me, there has been a lawsuit filed and you have gotten a court order finding it to be unconstitutional. I don't want the town to get into any more litigation. Already are. It's insanely expensive.
Suppose there was a lawsuit from someone that said you had 276 signatures, you met the requirements to put this on the ballot, and you didn't put it on the ballot. Suppose there was a lawsuit that said that. I mean, I'm not saying that we're just saying that we would have that.
And then I don't know that, I don't think we have any right to opine whether or not it legally should be on the ballot. I think that where I feel comfortable opining is if this is on the ballot or if this is on the floor for the vote and I'm asked my opinion, that's where I feel comfortable opining, and I don't feel comfortable with sections 1 and 5.
Well, we all have our opinion as voters on the different sections and whether or not, but. And of course, I can't vote what we decide to do, but my understanding of the statute is you have the signatures, you put the ordinance on, that's all, and it either passes or fails.
But when you put it on, we all have to give an opinion about whether or not we think, oh, it passed.
It may be that
Right.
the select board would come back to us. They've made a decision to put on or not put on, and then when you see it on the ballot, it'll say budget committee voted 4-3 or 3 or whatever as part of the decision on there as to whether or not they recommended approval, just like we do with the warrants. It would be that our opinions would then be.
And that's where I look at
And
voting is would I recommend people vote for this? At this point, no, because I have those concerns.
We're just not at that, in my opinion, we're not at that part of the ball game yet, that's all. But maybe we go back to the select board and recommend that they have the Maine Municipal Authority tell them whether or not the statute requires them to put it on because they have the signatures, and that's only recommendation we can make now. Whether or not they have to. or they-
I disagree with that. I don't feel comfortable putting this through.
Well, and again, Maine Municipal doesn't speak to local issues. They speak to umbrella issues.
Some say, do we have to put it on?
And again, I don't think our charge is this legal? I think our charge is a good policy.
And are we, so are we able to explain to the guys, because there's more than 287 taxpayers in this town, and we as a committee and as a voter or a citizen of this town, are we able to explain this ordinance?
And there are parts of this that are good policy and good practice,
Yeah.
but they need to be fleshed out because again, I think it's,
So what's our recommendation to tell them?
I think the recommendation should be, don't put it in front of voters, give us 6 or 7 months, whatever it is, to January to work on a financial policy that will incorporate the ideas that we think will serve taxpayers in the town the best. And we'll return so that those can be implemented as part of the FY28 budget process.
And make sure that everything we're doing is transparent to the taxpayers.
Well, and I think that's part of it.
Yes.
Is that a motion, Anthony?
Is that a motion we can capture? Or is that too long-winded?
Sarah, you have.
I retreat it.
So is your motion, Anthony?
My motion is that so I will move this. So I will move that that the committee recommend to the select board not placing this on the ballot so that the budget committee can incorporate the concepts of this into a financial policy to be presented to the select board in January. Am I going too fast for you, Kathy? Okay, I can slow down if you need me to.
Recommend not to bring out to a vote, but give the select board,
Give
give the
the-
budget committee and the select board time to come up with.
Give
to address the
the budget committee until January to propose a financial policy that incorporates the concepts of the petition. Which will be implemented as part of the FY28 budget process.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Kathy, did you get that all that? Okay, we're gonna let Kathy read it back before we have a vote.
A recommendation not to put this up for a vote, but to give the budget committee time to address the issues via financial policies that address the petition concepts. And this will be part of the budget approved.
27, 28 budget.
Yeah, to be, that will be enacted prior to the start of the FY28 budget process.
May I add 2 amendments?
Please.
Say no.
I would add that it is our recommendation that a select board member be appointed to participate in the development of those financial policies alongside the budget committee.
I'll second that.
Say that again.
I would add to that a select board member be appointed
Gotcha, I got it now.
to participate in the development of the financial policies.
Okay.
with the budget committee.
I got you, okay.
And I think the only other modifier would be that to the extent, I think this is our recommendation, to the extent they have the authority under the law to do it. Obviously, we're not recommending they do something that is not in compliance with the law, but to the extent they have discretion, this is our recommendation.
Yeah, and that's for the attorney to determine.
Nicholas, do you second the amendments?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Nicholas, what say you?
Yes.
And I recuse.
You're sustaining? One exception. Okay, I don't think we're gonna get to the full agenda tonight.
I move that we adjourned.
I got one
Second.
thing before we adjourn,
Oh.
because it's tomorrow night's meeting.
Oh, okay.
Anybody have the capital reserve in front of me?
Yeah.
Is Mary or Penny on?
No.
No.
Okay. So I asked for a capital reserve before. Today, and this is as of 7/27. Look at. Let me find it here again. 607-00. If and I was hoping one of them would be on, be able to clarify this.
You know, now that I think about it, Bruce, so I know the question you're gonna ask is that's a larger figure than what we were told.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, so the debt service has already been paid. The insurance costs have already been paid. I wonder if they've already just transferred money into the planning board reserve.
They have no.
You-
You know what? So these capital reserve does not have the 26, 27 figures in them. That's what I was telling.
Well, what I'm saying is in advance of but because essentially what we're doing tomorrow night is ratifying expenses that have already occurred. I wonder if they've already transferred the amount of money that they meant to into this capital. Do you know what the amount was that they were going to transfer into the reserve?
15,000.
Okay, well, if they overspent it, then that's probably what this represents.
So that's what it is, let's just ask them to tell us,
Yeah.
because we can, yes, I can.
So I'll ask if everybody's come to that, I'll ask that question and have Penny email that out, the answer with that.
Yeah.
Great, everybody. Well, so we have that answer for tomorrow night, if that question, somebody happens to ask that question. Otherwise, that's all I got.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll second that.
No, Nick already did.
All in favor?
All right. Good night, everyone.
No.
I appreciate it, thank you.